So the first category of items that we'll be covering tonight is vegetables. And Susan has actually included in your recipe pack a handy guide. It's sort of a brief guide to grilling a number of different kinds of vegetables. Some are common, some are not. So you can take a look at that and refer to it in the future. But aside from that, I'd like to go ahead and get started with one of my favorite vegetables, corn on the cob. So the way that corn on the cob is often prepared is inside. You might boil it, you might microwave it, you might do something or steam it, something like that. But grilling it is actually a great way to prepare it. It may not be the fastest way or the easiest way, but it's my favorite. There are a number of grilling techniques you can use, as I mentioned. And I'll talk about that a little bit, but my go-to method is as follows. Basically, I like to peel back the husk from the corn until the silk is visible. Then I remove the silk, usually by hand, but occasionally I'll use a little brush to kind of clean it off. And once I've discarded the silk, I return the husk to wrap the corn up again. You don't have to worry about completely covering the corn kernels, because actually it may be a little desirable to get some char on some of those kernels to add more flavor. After that, I drop the ears of corn into some water for 20 or 30 minutes just to, I guess, hydrate the husks so that they don't burn when they're on the grill. And once you've done this, you can grill them covered for 15 to 20 minutes over medium heat until they are tender, and turn every 5 minutes or so with a pair of tongs. Now, some people like to not even have the husks on when they are grilling the corn, and this will give a lot of char and a lot of flavor. You just have to be kind of careful that you don't overdo it and turn the whole thing black. It would take some effort to do that, but it's possible. So the recipe that I have included in the packet is for a Mexican street food staple called elote. And if you've never had it, you're really in for a treat. Basically, you're creating a little sauce of Mexican sour cream, mayonnaise, and garlic, and applying the sauce to the corn with a brush, or you could roll it into this mixture. But once you've done that, that's mainly to give it flavor and to have some moisture on the corn so that the cheese that you're going to put on it, which is cotija cheese, which is kind of salty and crumbly, that will adhere to the corn kernels. And you also add some chili powder and other spices and finish with lime juice. And it's just a delicious treat if you've never had Mexican street corn. So take a look at that recipe. And are there any questions on corn on the cob? Otherwise, we can move forward to our next vegetable, which is asparagus. And asparagus is super simple. You can do it pretty quickly as well. The way that I like to do it is, per normal, you would snap off the bottom ends of the asparagus to get rid of the woody parts. Then you coat the stalks with olive oil. And one trick that I've found is if you put skewers through the stalks perpendicularly, this will allow for easy flipping. So you can even skewer them with 2 skewers to keep them from kind of flopping around. It works pretty well as long as the stalks are thick enough to support a skewer going through them. Obviously, if you're using wooden or bamboo skewers, pre-soak them for 20 to 30 minutes so they don't catch on fire. So I grill for a total of 6 to 8 minutes, and I flip once so that each side gets a little color. The other option is to use an open-top grill basket. These are available on Amazon for like $20 or $25. This keeps the food from slipping through the cracks of the grill. And if you want a really fancy one, they have an all-clad model at Williams-Sonoma for $80. If you plan to do a lot of vegetable grilling, you can use this for many kinds of vegetables.
Hey, Mike, I want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
John has his hand raised.
Yes, what's the?
You have a question, John?
You have some alternate corn tips for us. Is that right, John?
Yeah. We can go back if you want, or we don't have to. We can move on. I don't care.
We can go back.
Yeah, we can certainly go back. What do you have for us, John?
Well, just some things to consider. My favorite way of cooking corn is in the microwave. So what you do there is basically you take the corn in the husk, throw it in a microwave, 6 minutes, if you got 1 or 2, 6 minutes, and it's done. You just cut off the thick end and you can squeeze the tip with the tassels on it. You don't even have to detassel it. And all that silk just comes right off.
So it comes off more easily.
Yeah, it comes off very easily. You're not picking away for half an hour trying to get that silk off. It just comes right off. And so the concept relative to grilling is you would cook them first in the microwave and get them cooked, take off the husk, and then put them on the grill, with whatever you put them on, a little oil, a little butter, whatever, put them on a grill, do your little turning, not for the length of time originally we're talking about, but it's a way to cook in advance and then just take those corns and, kind of brown them up real quick at the end. They'll still be pretty warm if you keep them covered and you cook them, not too far in advance of the grilling. And then you can go through your routine. So that's one option. The other option that I've done in the past as well is wrapping the corn in aluminum foil. And then I put a bunch of butter in there. And, I do the same thing, or aluminum foil. I'll turn them every 3 or 4 minutes, by the time, quarter turn every 3 minutes or so. By the time you get through cooking, whatever else, your steaks on the side, the corn will be done. You just peel that aluminum foil right off. It still gets the char because, it's sitting on that warm, hot grill. So it still gets a little char. And of course, you'd have to season it with your elote seasonings if you wanted to do that, or if you just wanted to do regular, popcorn salt and butter. That's a good way to eat it too.
Great tip. Really good tips.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
Yeah, as we move forward, I do the same thing with a lot of vegetables in the aluminum foil. It makes it easier. Doesn't fall. I don't have one of those things to, what do you call it, a mat or whatever you were talking about, the
grill basket.
Grill basket. Yeah, I don't have one of those, so the foil keeps them from, especially asparagus, keeps it from falling down into the, and even if you put them perpendicular on the grill, son of a gun, they'll find a way to slip out of the tongs and slide right into the fire.
They do.
They will. They will. So we have a couple questions from Maria. Have you ever used Yoshi? And I have not. Susan, have you used Yoshi?
What is Yoshi? I'm not familiar with that, Maria.
That's those grill mats I was telling you about, the Yoshi grill mats.
Okay, I use and I have a picture of what I use coming up when I get to when we get to broccoli and cauliflower. So, but I haven't used. Is it metal?
No, it's a mat. It's a piece of it's not plastic. It's some kind of a
The silicone?
synthetic that you
Oh,
can put right
silicone?
on the grill, and it doesn't burn, and you still get the grill marks on your vegetables. It just saves cleanup, and nothing drops. Obviously, nothing drops through the grids.
Right.
You can
Oh,
buy
interesting.
it, yeah, as seen on TV.
They must be very thin if they allow the grill marks to come through. Huh?
They are. Yep. You
That's
can
a great
Google it.
tip. I will, for sure.
Yeah,
Thank
there's
you.
all kinds of gadgets out there like that. If you watch TV, for any length of time, you'll see them. There's copper ones, there's silicon ones, there's I don't know, there's a million of them.
So getting back to asparagus, so I don't know if I mentioned you grill for a total of 6 to 8 minutes or so, flipping it once halfway through. And the recipe I've included is very, very simple. It doesn't mention the skewering trick, but that does work pretty well to keep the asparagus from falling through the cracks, so to speak. Now, Susan is going to talk about some of the other vegetables that you might look at next.
Yeah, so broccoli and cauliflower, you can grill those very easily if you cut them into steaks, and you can just put them directly on the grill. But I like to do florets. And the thing I like about grilling the vegetables, especially in the summer, is that they turn out very similar to roasted vegetables, but you're not heating up the kitchen with a hot stove. So especially during this heat, it's a great way to keep the heat outside. So when you do the florets, you can just simply toss them in, some olive oil, salt and pepper. You can even use some garlic, which I really like a lot. And then if you can see in the picture here that I've taken, that's my grill mat. It's flat and it's got a raised edge that you can use to kind of pick it up with. But you put that directly on the grill, and then you can put your asparagus or your florets, or you can do green beans. You can do onions really easily on this, and it keeps them from falling through. And I've had this for several years. It lasts a long time. You can get, like Mike said, similar to this, you can get something that has sides on it that will hold the vegetables from falling off of it. That would be an alternative, or like Maria said, you could get a Yoshi pad, something similar to that as well, but that will keep it from falling through the grates of the grill. And this gets a nice, if you really cook it, I didn't cook, this wasn't completely done when I took the picture, but you can see the beginning of some char marks on some of the vegetables. And I just think it's delicious. I included a recipe for grilled broccoli that is where you use tamari or soy sauce and some balsamic vinegar just to give it a little oomph. But personally, I prefer it just with a little salt, pepper, and garlic, and I feel like it's good to go. And then if you do a mixed batch like this, I find that the broccoli tends to cook a lot faster than the cauliflower or than some of the other vegetables. So you may want to keep an eye on it because it might cook a little faster. And then I'm going to move on, hopefully, to romaine lettuce. I don't know if any of you have grilled lettuce before, but I was a skeptic. I'd heard of these grilled Caesar salads and grilled lettuces, and I thought, well, I like it cold and crispy. I don't know what grilling would bring to the party. So I decided to try it out, and what I did was I spread olive oil on, I took the head of romaine and cut it in half and spread olive oil and some salt on the cut side, and just put the cut side on the grill to get the grill marks and the char on just that half. Then I also grilled a lemon, and then I squeezed the grilled lemon onto the lettuce and with some salt and pepper, and it was really quite delicious. I let it cool down and come more to room temperature, but it just it gave a smoky, it took the lettuce to a different place. So it wasn't the cold crisp lettuce, but it did have, you know, the backside of it was crisp, and it was a really enjoyable way to eat the romaine. And the recipe that I have included is for the grilled Caesar. It's from the New York Times, the cooking section, and it includes the recipe for the dressing. And in this recipe, it does call to cook the lettuce on all sides. You know, you're welcome to play with it and see what you like the best. If you want it charred all the way around, if you want to maintain the crispier backside and just the char on the cut side, you know, I don't think you can do anything wrong. It's just going to be to personal taste. But it doesn't take long. Like I said, it's about 5 minutes, and then it's plenty charred. The next thing I want to move into is fruit. And I love grilled fruit. And I think probably the stone fruit is one of the more popular fruits, that and pineapple, which I didn't include because everybody knows about grilled pineapple. But grilling peaches and grilling plums, you know, it brings out their sweetness, it brings out their juiciness, and it gives it just that smoky hint that is different from a fresh peach or a fresh plum. And you can use them in salads. You can use them as dessert with ice cream or whipped cream and some berries. And then you can also use them in summer cocktails. And the recipe that I included, I have not tried yet, but I thought it looked really good and worth trying. And that was for a grilled peach old fashioned, where you use a quarter of a peach as a garnish to go along with the old fashioned. So I thought that looked pretty tasty. And what you need to do is put some olive oil or some kind of oil on the peach, the cut side of the peach, before you put it on the grill so that it doesn't stick. And it doesn't take long, 3 to 5 minutes. You just want to get the grill marks on the fruit, and that's about it. So it's pretty straightforward and a great refreshing way to for a light dessert in the summertime.
I've taken the peaches and grilled them, and then put a scoop of ice cream and drizzle a little balsamic over it. It's really
Nice.
That sounds delicious. That would be phenomenal. There's something about balsamic and grilled fruit that is so good. Great tip. Now this one was a surprise to me as well, for the same reason that the lettuce was. Grilled watermelon. To me, I thought watermelon is meant to be cold and crisp and juicy, and you know, it's perfect the way that it is. But I had read several people saying you've got to try it, so I thought that I would. And I was very surprised. Grilling it brought out, it gave it more of an intense flavor. It was sweeter. It was still just as juicy, if not juicier. And it was delightful. So what I did was I cut thick slices so that it wouldn't fall apart. You lightly cover it with some olive oil, and you want it on a medium-high grill, and you do both sides about 3 to 5 minutes just till you get some grill marks. I don't think you want to over grill it, but you do want to get those grill marks. And I let it then come to room temperature because I didn't want to eat it hot. And then the recipe that I included is what I showed in this picture. And it is, after you grill it, you put some lime juice on it, a dollop of yogurt, fresh yogurt, Greek yogurt is what I used, some honey, and some lime zest and fresh mint. And it was a delicious, very light summer dessert, super easy, and just different. Definitely worth trying, I would say. And make sure you leave the rind on too. And then the last fruit I'm going to cover is avocado, which, you know, maybe some of you think it's I think of it more in the vegetable family, but it's technically a fruit, so that's why it's in this category. And like all the other fruits, when you grill it, you cut it in half, and you're going to oil the cut side and just grill the cut side down, leaving it in its skin. And then you're just going to grill it for 4 to 6 minutes, just till the grill marks are visible. It adds a smokiness to it. It adds, again, it intensifies its own flavor. And using a grilled avocado in a guacamole just gives it a different twist, a slightly different twist. So if you're looking for something different to do with it, you could do that. You can cut it up and put it into salads. And then I included a recipe for the grilled avocado with veggie ceviche. I thought this was really good. You used coconut milk, which was interesting to me, and some lime, and a dressing that you mix with the hearts of palm and the tomatoes, and just put it inside the half of the avocado. It's light, it's summery, and it's just a different twist on a way of using an avocado. Have any of you tried grilling an avocado? No?
No.
No.
I think it's worth trying. It makes a really delicious guacamole if you enjoy that. The next thing I'm going to talk about is grilling cheese. And if you're going to grill a cheese, it has to be something that's not going to just melt right through the grates. So one of the cheeses that is really worth grilling, and to me, it's perfect. It's halloumi, and it's a cheese from Cyprus. It's kind of a semi-ripe, semi-hard cheese. It's got a very high melting point, so that's why it works well on the grill. It's very salty. It's like a mixture of sheep and goat's milk. And you cut it into thick slices and stick it on the grill after you've oiled it so it doesn't stick to the grill. And just grill it long enough that it gets the grill marks. It's not very long, just a couple of minutes on each side. And it will get soft, but it won't like become goo or melt through the grates. And then you can use it in lots of different ways with bruschetta, or I actually grilled this cheese today. This picture is from today. And I took it and I put it with a spinach salad and with strawberries and some almonds and a balsamic vinaigrette, and it was unbelievable. So it's a really great thing to try. And I got this at Whole Foods in Hinsdale. It's super easy, and it would be delicious on bruschetta for sure. So I highly recommend trying grilled halloumi if you are looking for something different. And then I don't know if anybody's ever tried grilling brie before. You have to grill it whole and with the rind on, and you don't want to put it directly on the grill grates because it can melt, and if you break the rind, it'll just become, it'll ooze right through the rind. So you want to do it somewhat indirect, maybe on one of the grill pads, and you want the heat to be on, you want indirect heat. So what I do is I turn, I have a gas grill, and I turn the left burner on and I put it on the right side. So it's hot, but it's not over direct heat. And you just want to get it charred a little bit, and then top it with, I like it with fruits and something sweet. I think it works well. The recipe that I gave you is for grilled brie with peaches and honey, and then a balsamic drizzle over the top. And it makes a really nice summer appetizer if you're having people over. And then you do both sides of it too. You want to make sure you grill both sides. The next item that I'm going to talk about is pizza. And I have to say, this is my favorite way of cooking pizza. It does not come out looking beautiful. I've never had a grilled pizza that actually looks perfect because you have to get the dough from the peel or the cookie sheet or whatever you have it on onto the grill, and the minute it touches the grill, it's glued to the grill. So as you can see in the picture, this was my latest attempt at grilling it, and it's by far the worst. Of course, I was trying to it came out looking like that, but when you cook your pizza crust over the grill, it's kind of like a wood burning stove in Italy or in a pizzeria because it's very high heat and it's fire, and it really works well. So what you want to do though is grill the crust first. So you, for the recipe that I included, which is the one I made here, you grill the crust kind of for a few minutes in one direction, and then you turn it 90 degrees so that you can get a crisscross grill mark. And then you flip it and you grill the other side for just a couple of minutes, take it off the grill, and then put your toppings on it. And then it's firm enough that you can put it back on the grill with the toppings and they won't kind of go all over the place. And I see that I have some questions. So
the questions are ones that have already been asked. Do you see others that I'm not seeing?
I don't know. I guess that's it. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. The recipe that I included includes the crust, which is you want to make it 24 hours ahead of time, so you have to kind of plan ahead. And then the sauce, a homemade sauce that is really the best pizza sauce I've ever had. So you know, you'll want to look into that. And
so Trista is mentioning that you can grill frozen pizza.
yes, I've done that too.
To add some flavor.
Yeah.
Or if you don't want to go through the whole headache of making your own pizza at home, Jack's Pizza in particular is really good on the grill.
Oh, interesting.
I have grilled several of the frozen pizzas. They turn out really well. And I'll tell you what, I got to grilling the pizza, making the dough from scratch and doing it all at home. Because, you know, lately we've had a lot of time on our hands and I've got kids at home that like to cook. And so we've kind of been experimenting with things. But the frozen pizzas work really well on the grill as well. I agree. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, out of all of the things I've mentioned so far, I'm going to tell you, try the pizza first because it is so good. John, do you have a question? I keep getting a notice that you're raising your hand.
Just a quick comment.
Yeah.
Relative to all these great grilled things, especially out of the ordinary grilled things. It would, I guess one of the things you have to make sure of is that the folks you're serving it to are okay with grilling things that are unconventional. I had an experience where our power went out for a few days and we had some frozen waffles. And I thought, oh, what the heck, you know, just like going camping, I can grill the waffles and serve those as a breakfast brunch type dish. Well, son of a gun, my wife thought it was the worst idea I ever came up with because she was not a big fan of you know, the sweet, and particularly the sweet items. The pizza maybe she would go with, but to take something sweet and grill it and then try to serve it, it's whoa, man. So, but again, it's it probably didn't help that my grill wasn't very clean. So, you know, you got all that grease burning on the bottom because I got a gas grill, but it's just a thought, you know. I mean, you know, if you're going to invite some people over, you know, if you don't have a handle on what they enjoy, you know, it might be worth inquiring ahead of time.
Sure, for sure. And these are all just to give you some ideas of things that you can do that maybe you hadn't thought of. Now's a fun time to experiment with food, I think. So, and it's so hot, you might as well try to stay out of the kitchen. So I'm going to pass it on to Mike. Mike, you're on mute.
Ah, there we go.
There you go.
Julie had a question about the homemade sauce that you mentioned.
Yes.
Do you have that recipe?
It's part of the pizza recipe in the packet, and I'm just pulling it up now. And I followed it pretty much exactly. It's one 14-ounce can of full peeled tomatoes, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 teaspoons of fresh oregano, and I used dried because I didn't have fresh. Sugar, half a teaspoon of sugar, salt, and then a quarter of a teaspoon red pepper flakes. And you kind of mince it in the blender, but you don't really cook it. You just warm it before you put it on the pizza. But and to me, I mean, I've had pizza in Italy, and this was just as good as the sauce, in my opinion, that I got in Italy. And then you can put fresh mozzarella on it, and just the picture does not show fresh mozzarella because my daughter doesn't like fresh mozzarella. But you can put dollops of sauce and clumps of mozzarella, and just for a couple minutes, and you're good to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so Mike, I think you're up.
Yeah, so what I'll talk about next is grilling bread. So this is a very simple technique that can add a lot of flavor to the bread that you're bringing. And essentially, I'm talking about grilling bread that's already been baked. So you're taking something you get at the store, or if you bake your own bread, you just slice it relatively thickly. I'd say at least a half-inch thick, maybe 3/4 or even a full inch thick per slice. And the kinds of loaves that work the best are those that have a nice crust, like a ciabatta or a sourdough. Those work quite well. They have a little bit of heft to them, and the crust can stand up to the grill treatment. And you simply brush each side of the bread with a little olive oil and grill over a low to medium heat. It should only take a couple of minutes total to toast the bread to a nice color. And you can serve with a little bit of olive oil, kosher salt, and black pepper. So a little more involved technique would be the recipe that I have included here, which is for a Catalan tomato toast, which is basically one of the most iconic Spanish tapas there is. It's delicious, and it's super simple. So basically you're grilling the bread, and then once that's done, you rub each slice of the grilled bread with cloves of garlic, and then you take very ripe tomatoes and cut them in half, and you kind of use the texture of the bread, which is hard and craggy, as kind of a way to grate the flavor into the bread itself. So you'll just be rubbing your tomato into the surface of the bread, and it just gives it a wonderful fresh flavor. And if you can get a hold of tomatoes that are from a garden or the farmer's market or something, it's just fantastic. So that's one that I recommend. So that's sort of grilling bread that has already been baked. But there's also, on the next slide, a way to cook cornbread and actually bake it in the grill. So it does add a little bit of smoke flavor, and it's kind of fun to do it a little differently. It feels a little adventurous. So to do this, you'll heat the grill to a relatively low temperature, and you use a 12-inch cast iron skillet on the grill for this. You'll prepare the batter and stir the ingredients until combined. Don't overmix them. You'll want to grease the hot skillet with like an oiled paper towel and or butter that you're rubbing into the surface of the pan. And you pour your batter into the pan and bake for about 12 minutes. If you like it a little spicy, you can throw some diced jalapenos into the batter. So that can, if you have a honey butter with it, that can be the sweet and spicy combination that I like a lot anyway. So after 7 or 8 minutes, you can start checking with a toothpick for doneness. Like with a cake, you just want the toothpick to come out clean, and then you know it's done. And you can take the pan off the heat at that point. The recipe that I've included is supposedly Emeril's recipe for cornbread. This is via Martha Stewart. And she uses a honey butter mixture that she brushes onto the top of the baked cornbread and lets it sit for 5 minutes before serving. And that adds some nice sweetness. Does anybody have any questions about either of the bread preparations or your own experiences with bread? I know, Susan, you've cooked bread on the grill a number of times.
Yeah, I do something similar to your tomato bread, where only I put slices, I rub the bread, grill the bread, ciabatta bread, rub it with garlic, and then just put slices of really thin slices of tomatoes tiled on top of it. And the juices sink down in, and it's, really good. I see John is saying maybe use Growy Mill cornmeal. It's coarse ground and may take longer, but it's very flavorful because it's the whole grain, including the oily germ, which is a great tip.
That is. Yeah, I've heard that they have a functional mill there. So that's a great idea.
Yeah, definitely. Local too.
So the next thing I'd like to talk about is seafood. And this is not that exotic, obviously. Many of us grill seafood on a somewhat regular basis. But I just wanted to mention that I really enjoy cooking firm textured fish like swordfish. I think it has a lot of flavor, and the texture really works well because you don't have to worry so much about the fish flaking off in the midst of your grilling session and falling into the fire itself. Swordfish is perfect for this, but I've also had good luck with tuna and salmon or even shark. So to grill something like this, a firm textured fish, you'd obviously want to clean the grill grates. And after you've selected your swordfish steaks, for example, you'd want to pick ones that are cut to about an inch thick. And you heat the grill up to medium high. And when you're cleaning the grill, one technique that is frequently mentioned is to take a double layer of aluminum foil and place it on the grill while you're preheating it. And that sort of focuses the radiant heat back onto the grill from above and helps it to heat up faster, and also get rid of some of the, it burns off some of the residue from your last grilling session. So that's a pretty good trick while you're preheating. So as with many of these other things that we've been mentioning, you want to make sure that the item you're cooking doesn't stick to the surface. So I like to use a paper towel that I've sort of saturated with olive oil and go over the area I'm going to use the grill with that a number of times. The oil will sort of polymerize onto the surface of the grill and make it kind of non-stick. So once you've done that, you'll want to prepare the fish. So if you have the fish with a little bit of moisture on them, you'll want to dry both sides of the fish with a paper towel, and then add a little bit of oil to each side. I like to use olive oil. And then do a little bit of seasoning. So something like black pepper and kosher salt immediately before grilling works great. Otherwise, you can marinate something like this using your favorite marinade, but don't over marinate. If you go much beyond 20 minutes, you can really negatively affect the texture of the seafood. So I would just try to, if you do it, be careful. So you're actually grilling this for a total of maybe 6 or 7 minutes. You flip it once halfway through, and your goal here is to get the fish to an internal temperature of 145 degrees. So I like to use an instant read thermometer, like a little digital thermometer with a probe. The one that I prefer is the Thermapan by ThermoWorks, but there are many others that work quite well. The Thermapan is between $80 and $100, so it's not a cheap item, but it gives you like an instant on within 2 or 3 seconds. You don't have to sit there holding the thermometer for 10 seconds, waiting for it to give you a reading. So check your fish to get to that 145°F temperature. It will be opaque all the way through. You don't want to overcook it. So once it hits 145, pull it for sure. Now, if you're cooking something like tuna, you'll often want to leave the interior kind of rare and just sear the outside. So in that case, you'd want to use a higher heat and just get that nice sear on each side. And then just don't overcook your tuna, because then you're taking a beautiful, beautiful piece of protein and sort of sucking all the moisture out of it.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
John mentioned, in addition, halibut makes a great fish to grill.
Halibut.
Which I agree. And also, you can do fillets with the skin on.
So yes, absolutely. Like a salmon with the skin on is fantastic, but I'm sure, you know, red snapper or, as you mentioned, halibut would be great. I like that texture that I get from a thick cut, but yes, obviously, crispy skin on your fish can be a beautiful thing, for sure. Were there any other questions?
No, not.
Okay. So I have a recipe here for swordfish, which does involve a little bit of.
Actually, Mike, Trista has a question.
Yes, Trista.
Oh, it wasn't a question per se. I sent it through on the chat, but you can also like cedar plank your fish, especially
Yeah.
cedar plank your salmon. I like to soak my plank in a thick nectar, so like mango nectar or apple cider. Put your salmon on top of it, season it just a very little bit. I either get whatever you like, whether it's from France, whether it's from Alaska, whether it's a little dill, and then drizzle it with pure maple syrup.
Wow.
It's delicious.
That sounds great.
And then throw your cedar plank in your fire pit when you're done.
So the cedar plank, when you soak it in the nectar, does that add a whole nother layer of flavor to it?
Yeah, I think so. And
wow, it's a great tip.
then the other thing you can do is in the winter when it's too cold to do that, just do all of that and do it in the oven.
Do you put the maple syrup on while you're cooking it or after you?
Yep, while you're cooking it, and make sure that it's pure maple syrup, because I have no idea what the other stuff would do. And that's how they typically cook it in Seattle.
Very cool. Thanks very much.
Sure.
As I mentioned, the recipe that I've given for you is a grilled marinated swordfish steak. So it has some herbs and that sort of thing. It's still relatively simple. It's a New York Times recipe, so I thought you'd appreciate that one. I also like to grill shrimp. So if you could advance to the next slide, Susan. Shrimp are obviously really quick to grill. The general steps that you might use would be to preheat your grill to medium high. And I like to use medium to large size shrimp, so maybe 20 to 30 per pound. And obviously clean them and peel them if necessary, if they haven't been already. I like to use that double skewer technique again to make them easy to flip. So you'll pass the skewers through the relatively thick part of the shrimp. And what you want is to have a solid mass of shrimp. So you're having, if you can imagine, nested C's on your skewers. So everything's touching. I don't recommend skewering them individually so that it goes through the head and the tail for each shrimp. You want to have a nice solid mash of shrimp so that it cooks uniformly. So you'll preheat the grill to medium high, as I mentioned, and if you're using bamboo skewers, again, soak them for 20 or 30 minutes, keep them from burning. And after you skewer the shrimp, you'll want to dry them with a paper towel and then brush olive oil on each side, sprinkling kosher salt and black pepper on them as you see fit. You can use other seasonings as well. Some people like a spicy shrimp, so they might put a little cayenne pepper on them. You'll grill the shrimp for only 1 or 2 minutes per side, flipping once, and basting the shrimp possibly with some melted butter while you're cooking. You could even put a little garlic in with the melted butter to make it a little more flavorful. But again, you want to cook till it's opaque all the way through. You don't want any translucency on your shrimp, but you also don't want it to go too far because overcooked shrimp can be very rubbery. So the recipe that I have here is for garlic grilled shrimp, and it's just a little more complicated than the very simple preparation that I mentioned here, but it's still quite easy. So anybody have any recommendations for shrimp or thoughts about that?
You can wrap them in bacon and grill them too. That's really good.
Yes, I'm a big fan of bacon. I haven't done that myself, but I can imagine that would be great.
It is good.
So I think we're done with the entree portion of our event, and Susan's going to talk a little bit about dessert.
Just a little bit about dessert. I think dessert, it's you know, I may be pushing the boundaries here a little far, so indulge me. But there are, you know, in addition to grilling fruit directly on the grill and putting ice cream or whipped cream or something with them, you can create other desserts on the grill if you are adventurous. So one option would be to actually just grill slices of cake. And I prefer like an angel food cake or a pound cake, a very sweet cake that's simple, no icing or anything like that. And you just take a slice of it, and you'll want to put some butter on it so it doesn't stick, and put it directly on the grill. I would put it on medium. I wouldn't put it too high. And what you're trying to do is kind of create a burned sugar effect, like creme brulee maybe. It's just a slight grill. It's not going to be, you know, you're not going to keep it on for very long, just long enough to get that grill mark on it and that charred flavor. But that makes a really nice pairing then with a dollop of whipped cream or a dollop of vanilla ice cream and then some fresh berries. And it's just a different way to kind of dress up your cake. What, you know, it's typically a simple cake. So that would be one option if you want to grill dessert. You can also create entire like crumbles, crisp pies on the grill by, as you see in the photo here, by creating a crumble and then sticking it on its pan right directly onto the grill. But the recipe that I included is for a blueberry galette that you actually put on a sheet. You would make it like you were going to bake it, but you would put it on a sheet of foil, and then you put it on an overturned baking sheet that has rims on the side, and then you put that on the grill. So it's lifted up a little bit off the grill. And you're going to end up grilling that for about 30 minutes until it's kind of bubbly and brown. And, you know, if you're sitting outside and want to just throw it on the grill while you're, you know, waiting for others or having your dinner and keeping an eye on it that way, you can do it that way and just have a great dessert right straight from the grill. So that's about it as far as desserts go that I other than s'mores, and actually done bananas in their skin with chocolate in them, and that's kind of fun too with kids. So that's the only desserts that I know of. I don't know if anybody has any other ideas. John wants to know what kind of grill you use, Mike.
I have, oh geez, it's like a little portable grill. I can't remember the brand name. I don't even know if they still make it anymore, but it uses those little propane canisters. that you can get from, I guess I get mine from Walmart, but it doesn't have even the big propane canister that you trade out for another 20-pound beast of one. So it's a very simple grill. It doesn't have a lot of space, but it gets the job done for me.
And Trista, did you have a comment?
Oh, you were saying about desserts. You can also, like with your pound cake that you grill,
Yes.
you top it with strawberries that you've grilled in sugar and rum.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
Mm.
And what do you grill them in with the sugar and the rum?
Just like a grill basket.
The grill basket, okay.
So John wants to know if we have any experience with grill pans.
What do you mean by grill pans, John?
Oh, that would be the ribbed, thick bottom griddle.
Oh, you mean on the stove?
I'm sorry?
You mean that you would use on the stove?
Well, I've seen those used on the stove, of course, but also on the grill
Oh,
as a way to maybe even out the heat. Just curious if anybody has used them and has any thoughts or comments on it.
I've been tempted to get one, but I have not as of yet. So I don't have any direct experience with them, John.
I have one. I use it to grill in the house during the winter. It's all right. It's not the same as a grill. I've not used a grill pan on the grill. So that's an interesting idea, and I may have to try that. But using the grill pan I have is kind of a medium range. It's not a high end, like the best that I could get. And it's fine, but it doesn't give the same grilled flavor that using a grill outside does. And it doesn't get as hot.
I guess if it's cast iron, the idea might be that it holds on to that heat for a little while, and as John mentioned, it sort of evens out the hot spots and the cool spots to
Yeah,
make
it
a nice...
keeps stuff from falling through as well.
Yeah,
And,
that is true.
Well, I'm curious. Like I said, I'm curious to give that a try. And so again, what else was I just had another thought here. The George, when you talk about inside grilling, Susan,
George Foreman.
I got one of these little George Foreman grills. And when if I want like a grilled chicken breast or a burger or something, it works pretty good. I mean, you just stick it, you plug it in, throw something on, close the lid, and boom. I mean, I think I agree, it's not as good as, the outdoor grill. But I've seen variations of the George. George is the low end, and I've seen high end grills and griddles, and just curious again. If that anybody has experience with the higher end items, and or have you used any of the smoking pans to explore smoked dishes?
I have not.
I have a separate smoker, John. So I keep those two worlds, grilling and smoking, separate.
I gotcha.
Yeah, because you don't smoke at a high heat. You smoke at a low heat.
Right. So does anybody else have any unusual things that you cook on your grills that we didn't cover?
I use that cooking sheet, and I'll make breakfast. And I'll do potatoes, green peppers, and that type of thing. Then I'll just pour eggs right on it and scramble them in it.
Oh,
that sounds great.
It works perfect.
We didn't think of breakfast, but that's Great way to do it.
Yeah, do eggs over easy, or I just scramble them right in with the potatoes. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm getting hungry. Is it breakfast time yet? I have a few hours to go. Any other tips or maybe some gadgets that you all have played with that we didn't discuss?
John is mentioning grilled pineapples and grilled bananas, which I will concur. Those are all great. So good. And you can soak the pineapples in a teriyaki sauce before you grill it, and that's delicious. Mangoes. I hadn't considered mangoes. Grilled mangoes and apples and pear. I really think you can throw just about anything on a grill and it's good.
For sure.
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. I hope that you've gotten something out of it. I hope you enjoy our recipes and give them a try, and get back to us if you have had success. We love having some conversation about what works and what doesn't work, and I've certainly enjoyed spending tonight with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.